everyone. Welcome back to the MTG Goldfish podcast. We're back. The crew is with you. Chaz, as always, a writer of MTG Finance, the financial aspect of the game, as well as just everything Magic the Gathering related. Accompanied by Richard, the owner of MTG Goldfish. What's up, Richard?
It's a crazy morning, boys. Crazy morning.
I can't even get through the opening. It's like I'm trying to still process everything. What episode is this? I don't even know. 103? Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, our resident jank brewer and just all-around MTG content creator. What's up, Seth?
What's up, guys? I'm just sitting here in shock at this BNR announcement.
We're your weekly podcast about everything Magic the Gathering related. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, mtggoldfish.com, and more recently, YouTube. So hello to YouTube. We're just going to cut to the chase. We got a banned and restricted announcement this morning. It was moved up to today. I kind of almost feel like Woody from like Toy Story. Andy's birthday party has been moved to today. So a lot of stuff is going on. So we're just going to take a little bit of time to process this. We're going to go into some Aether Revolt stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about just Aether Revolt in general, some specific cards. We have fish mail. But let me tell you what's going on. So January 9th was just updated. So standard. Emrakul, the Promised End, banned. Smuggler's Copter, banned. Reflector Mage, banned. Goes into effect January 20th, and on Magic Online, January 11th. And in Modern, the same timing, Jataxian Probe is banned. Golgari Grave Troll is banned. So I open up the floor to you two gentlemen. What do you make of this? Richard.
What is going on? We were talking before. We normally record the podcast an hour earlier, and we delayed it to get the BNR announcement. And we were all thinking the Saheeli Rai combo from Aether Revolt was going to get axed. And then out of left field, Reflector Mage gets it. Emrakul and Smuggler's Copter also get it. Cards that are kind of dominant in the format, but I didn't think it was that bad. But it feels like Wizards has lost their mind and they're just banning things left and right. I'm not sure, and my speculation is there's some deck or interaction in Aether Revolt that makes Reflector Mage broken, and it just looks really bad. Emrakul, the face card of an entire block, is banned. It just feels like we're Hearthstone now. It just feels like we're getting errata and changes left and right. And before they used to be kind of, sacred and just emergency. We need to do this in the most dire situations. And I didn't feel we were there. And I don't know what they're doing. They're just coming in and just shooting by the hip left and right. And Emrakul and Smuggler's Copter got hit. I don't know what to say here. I'm in shock.
Yeah, I don't even know. Seth, what do you make of this?
I don't even know what to say. We've never seen anything like this before. Like, one thing that's been consistent through the history of Magic is standard bannings are an extremely rare beast. Affinity, it happened. It was broken. Urza's Block, it happened. Format was broken. In World Wake, it happened with Jace. But that's like 3 times, and only one in the last 15 years since Mirrodin was 2002, something like that. So it just doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden we get a banning that's not just a broken dominant card or synergy, but just good stuff from every deck. If you look at the standard meta right now, they literally just, it seems like, looked at the top decks in the format. 70% of the format, essentially, in the Goldfish database is Aetherworks Marvel, which is dependent on Emrakul, various vehicle aggro decks, which are 100% dependent on Smuggler's Copter, and then Blue-White Flash, which is Smuggler's Copter and Reflector Mage. So they just pretty much pulled cards out of all the best decks in the format. All I can think of is this is akin to Splinter Twin and even Birthing Pod to some extent, where we have a Pro Tour coming up and we want to make sure the format's interesting, and we don't want Pro Tour Aether Revolt to be Blue-White Flash versus Aetherworks Marvel versus Mardu Vehicles or whatever vehicle aggro deck. And Wizards didn't want that to happen, so their solution was just to pull everything out of the format. But I don't know what to say. This is completely uncharted territory.
Yeah, this is, when we look back, like, this looks so awkward compared to what was banned in standard before. But I guess you can't really use past standards as a precedent. And I kind of I've been looking at that because, you compare this to like Stoneforge Mystic and Jace. Everything's relative, right? Like you can't just say like, oh, you can't ban a card just because it's not Jace, the Mind Sculptor, Stoneforge Mystic power level, because you're never going to have those cards again. You have to ban what's relative to what's doing well in that standard. And I guess in this standard, I mean, Seth, we talked about it since the start. You wrote an entire article about Emrakul. I mean, we said like, listen, we've been through Mindslaver. Like Mindslaver is really really awful to play with, and it was almost like a degenerate card even back then when it was just Mindslaver and Mirrodin. If Affinity and all that was not around, like I would bet like Mindslaver would have been a pretty degenerate card. So we digress. I just don't know. So they obviously saw something in Reflector Mage that has to do with Aether Revolt, or maybe on the horizon even in Amonkhet, that there has to be something that we have to get rid of. And it just looks like Reflector Mage, Smuggler's Copter, and Emrakul, Emrakul and Smuggler's Copter were just taking over standard. And Reflector Mage, obviously there's something there that was going to completely break Reflector Mage if they didn't do something about it. And this seems to me like they had to backpedal a little bit from their recent change in rotation. So this is like a fix to that.
Yeah, I think you guys are onto something. I think this is kind of like the modern bannings where you just do random bannings to shake up the format. Because Emrakul and Smuggler's Copter are both colorless cards. Any deck can play them, right? So you can't, there's no imbalance of colors, right? Every color can play Smuggler's Copter. If you want Aether Revolt Pro Tour to look nice and fresh, you don't want to be overrun by Copters and Emrakuls, just ban them. And there you go. And I think that might be it, because otherwise I don't see how these are so oppressive. Like, is it, like, where do you draw the line? Is Gideon next to go? Gideon's like in every deck. How about Archangel Avacyn? There's plenty of other cards. And given that this is at the time of Aether Revolt, they could have printed answers in the set for these cards if they felt they were problematic. Like, we got Shock in Aether Revolt. Well, how about you give us Lightning Bolt? Right? Smuggler's Copter won't be that oppressive if you have a Lightning Bolt to hit it with. So makes me very suspicious behind the reasonings of this format, or of these changes to the format, when they could have just made answers in Aether Revolt for these existing cards. So I wonder if they just missed some combos or some synergies that people picked up after spoilers, and they didn't have time to put in the answers into Aether Revolt.
I mean, I think one of the biggest things for me is that Wizards, again, didn't print answers. We've been talking about this for a while now, but Aether Revolt is another set without Graveyard Hate. It's a set without, well, it got a slightly better Smuggler's Copter removal, but we didn't get a Pithing Needle or a Lightning Bolt. Fatal Push is good, but not at that level. So it seems like some of these problems could have been fixed by Wizards putting those cards in the format. So I don't know if that's just an oversight, or if Wizards just is really so against any sort of disruptive cards or any sort of answer cards or hate cards that they're willing to ban the face cards. Like Emrakul was the most hype card. You remember the spoiling of Emrakul, this big secret, this huge hype, all this stuff, and everyone kind of knew Emrakul was coming, but they made it such a huge deal. It's probably the most hype card of all of 2016, and it's just banned. So I don't know. It seems like a better way of going about this to me would have been printing some more answer cards instead of just banning them outright. I'm incredibly curious to see what the community's reaction to this is. People already complain about cards getting banned. And what if you're the person that just invested $400 in Green-Black Delirium and now you lose Emrakul, or whatever, $250, $300 in Mardu vehicles, and now your deck's unplayable because you lose literally the best card in your deck. So I will be curious to see what the reaction is. Are people happy that we're going to have a fresh standard and some really dominant cards are gone? Or are they going to be upset because they're losing money in their deck that they invested money in all of a sudden, with the thinking that it's going to be playable for the next, whatever, 2 years or something? In the case of Mardu vehicles, it's a long time. The Kaladesh just came out 3 months ago. So is their deck that they invested in being banned going to actually turn some people off and upset them?
I predict people will be outraged. Absolutely outraged. People did not like fast rotation because your cards became worthless. Well, if you own a playset of Emrakuls, that was $80 that just incinerated in the span of 2 hours from when they announced they accelerated B&R to when they released it. And same with Smuggler's Copter, that's $40 of Copters. And you're telling me a new player trying to buy Delirium just dropped $120 on this and now they can't even play it? It's like they can't even play it in a, like a tier 2 deck or something. They literally cannot play these cards anymore. So I would be livid as a standard player, and like, why would you play this Magic the Gathering game where at any BNR the cards that you bought can just basically tank, right? Modern players had this fear already, but now standard players get this as well. And standard was supposed to be kind of the safe, noob friendly format. So next time you open that shiny mythic, if it's too good to be true, well, it might be. They might just ban it the next time. And I don't know what kind of precedent that sets. I don't know if the situation was so dire you had to shake everyone's trust in the system. How bad was Emrakul? How bad is Smuggler's Copter? Can you not just let them naturally run their course?
Right. And the precedent they set is we can do this more often, actually, because if you read past down into the rest of the announcement, the banned and restricted announcements will now take place both on the Monday after standard legal set pre-releases and 5 weeks after a Pro Tour, also on a Monday. So is it conceivable? Because it wasn't before, it was kind of understood that, it's been such a long time that, they really have a handle on standard. We don't have to worry about really standard bans anymore, but it kind of comes with the territory and other formats, right? So now what? Everyone gets drawn into the only Pro Tour format anymore, standard. And let's say we go back to Pro Tour Kaladesh, right, Seth? Does Blue-White Flash get banned now because it was the best deck at the tournament? Like, how does this work now? Do we just throw Avacyn onto that list now? Where does it stop? And let me ask you both something. So that we talked about ban and restricted announcements a lot, and we've talked a lot of different podcasts about a lot of different things. Before we started recording, you brought up Hearthstone, right? Does this just come with the territory that this is a paper game and they can't errata cards? Because in Hearthstone, they don't really ban cards; they just change them, right? And it's no harm, no foul. Yeah, they might be worse, but I still own the card. It's not like it just basically is gone forever. Banning a card means I can't use it anymore, and that does nothing for me. So how long does this take into, is just because it's a paper game? Does this push us into, well, you know what? Maybe this game needs to start being on a digital platform so we don't run into these problems anymore.
Yeah, it's because it's a paper game, you need to be conservative, issue, right? You need to be conservative. You need to print cards that aren't going to be broken. And when they're broken, you need to be conservative to protect people's quote-unquote investment in this, collectible card game. Hearthstone does things right? First, they errata cards, so you actually still own them. Second, if you disenchant them because they've been nerfed, you get full value, meaning you get to swap cards, right? So the equivalent here would be I could swap these 4 Emrakuls for, 4 new Tezzeret Planeswalkers from Aether Revolt, or, 4 any other mythics from any standard legal set. But we don't have that, right? And I don't know what the price of Emrakul is, but I'm sure it's nosedived since this announcement. Same with Copter. And basically players are just left losing money. And there was no recourse for this. You couldn't predict this. How are you going to predict all of these cards will go? Especially given that they just randomly moved the announcement up by a week and gave everyone like an hour's notice. So I don't know. This makes me lose a lot of faith in Wizards. Standard has kind of been their bread and butter, right? We've always trusted development. We're like, oh, Moto sucks, but don't worry, that's digital. R&D knows what they're doing. Standard is so awesome. They're always making good cards. They always make good choices. And now, I don't know. This is calling that into question.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really huge, complex issue. And I think it's compounded because everyone just felt a little more safe with Standard. And Standard has been under siege a lot lately. And it's like, now you're just going to ban cards outright? Like, I thought you guys had this under control.
So do you think that this will be a financially based concern? Like, do you think when we see the fourth quarter reports come out in, I think it's February from Wizards, are we going to be looking at this fall as a bad time for Wizards financially? Profits decreasing, tournament attendance down? Like, do you think that is what pushed it over the edge for them to take what looks to be really drastic action?
I have no idea. Like, how would this help?
I really don't know.
How does this help? How does this make you go out and want to buy more cards? this makes me like not want to buy any cards like ever. Right? This makes me want to play Pauper. It's like, yeah, ban my deck, right? Take my $10, leave me alone, as opposed to take my $150 investment. So I don't know. This shakes my confidence a lot, and this is, you know, since we've been doing this, since I've been running Goldfish, I've never had my confidence this like shook. You know, even like play points, you know, all the moto changes. You know, it was all like, okay, yeah, a little weird, sure, but this one is like, huh, is Magic in trouble? Like, what is going on here? Did some bigwig person come in and just slap these changes in, you know, overriding development and R&D and all that stuff? Or, you know, what exactly happened here? Because this seems very unusual and very atypical of Wizards. But maybe it's the new norm going forward. Maybe this is what revitalizes Standard. Maybe this makes the best Pro Tour we've ever seen ever. I don't know. But at this point, I'm gonna stay on the side of Wizards is very confused, as opposed to Wizards knows what they're doing, because they haven't shown us that yet. So maybe this is the time to show it and shake things up. But right now, I'm very concerned.
I will say that in all the doom and gloom, I am very excited for brewing now. It is going to make the next few weeks really exciting, because a lot of the things, in all fairness, these bans are very impactful and very surprising, but it's hard for me to argue that Standard won't be a better and more exciting and fun place with Emrakul gone, with Smuggler's Copter gone. Those were two cards that had a really constricting effect on the format. Copter really increased variance. I know from playing a lot of random Copter decks that it feels like, and playing against them too, if you have a Copter on turn 2, it just feels like you're winning with any random junk that you have in your deck. And that same deck, if you don't have Copter, it feels like you're losing. So it's very swingy, and Emrakul just completely crushes the top end diversity. Like when we were doing the set reviews this weekend, me and Chaz were recording them. There were so many cards like a Johnny and other expensive cards there. It was just like, yeah, this is sweet. I like this card, but is it going to actually be able to compete with Emrakul? And the answer was always no. So I think these changes are good. It's just how drastic and surprising they are that is sort of scary.
Yeah, that was a really good point that you brought up, and it was almost like in the back of everyone's minds, right? And even we're going to talk a little more in another segment that, you know, Aether Revolt brought all these awesome looking combos, and just Kaladesh as well. Like we had Paradox Engine, we have the Reservoir, we have all this stuff that we're going to talk about. But even then, it almost felt like, does this still combat like everything that's going on? So I get the Emrakul. It's just it's almost like you can't do this without having everyone just feel bad. And I don't know what the middle ground is. Like, do you send everyone like a couple packs? Like, what do you do? I'm seeing people on Twitter. It's just funny because we brought it up, and it's like, does everyone get their full dust like back for the cards that you just changed? Like, what happens? And the truth is I don't know. Do you send out vouchers? Does like everyone get a free draft at, you know, your local gaming store? Like, what happens?
That doesn't solve anything. Like, here's right. $6 for a free draft.
Yeah, like
sorry about your $120.
Yeah.
But does this concern you guys?
Like, what do we do now?
So remember, the general consensus on Aether Revolt is it's one of the most powerful and push sets we've had in a while. And, you know, you have things like infinite combos, you have things like fast mana / free spells, you have all these cool things, and that's not enough to combat Emrakul? Like, that's not enough to make a healthy meta? Like, I thought they pushed the power level of all these cards so that they could overcome Emrakul, so they could overcome Smuggler's Copter. But apparently it wasn't enough, and they needed to ban all these cards anyway. So, like, what does that say for the current state of Standard and the power level? Like, why is this Standard so powerful now? Are we just going to have the next Emrakul, you know, after the Pro Tour, when the pros have fixed and solved the format? You know, is Saheeli combo just going to be the next Emrakul, and we expect a banning in 5 months, 6 months? Like, what does this really mean? It's just very shocking.
And I agree with the bans. I mean, I don't know about Reflector Mage. I'm assuming that we will see why that was banned, but I mean, I guess it was still, they want creatures to matter, and I get it, because without Emrakul, I guess people will be playing different creatures, and Reflector Mage was always kind of, you know, it always put a damper on everything. And Smuggler's Copter obviously was just in way too many decks. So I kind of agree with everything. And then the modern bannings also I agree with. It's just you're never going to be able to do this without a huge backlash. It's like, well, what do? Do you let people go and get dragged through the mud, like through a horrible standard, or do you do something about it and everyone still gets upset?
How about
I don't know.
You just make standard good like you did for most, or reasonable, like you did for most of the standards for the past 25 years? Like, I think that's where the failing is. I think that we should have never been to this position where Wizards was having to make these choices because they should have known better than to print Emrakul as it was. Or I can be a bit more forgiving with Smuggler's Copter being a new card type. I understand that that's where misses happen, so I'm a little more forgiving there. But Emrakul's a big one. Like they could have made that in a way where it didn't need to be banned. But instead, they pushed it too far knowingly. So I don't know. I think that's where the biggest failing is. And we've been so focused on standard, we really didn't get to modern very much at all. Gitaxian Probe I really like as a banning. I think that's a good call. Golgari Grave Troll, though, I don't really think that does much of anything. Like, you have more dredgers. If you really wanted to hurt dredge, I think you would have had to ban something more, because it's so easy to replace it with something that's just slightly less powerful, because it's not like you're ever casting Golgari Grave Troll. It's just there to dredge, so you go from like dredge 6 to dredge 4. So that one's a real head scratcher to me too. I don't know why, if they wanted to hurt dredge, I don't know why they'd pick Golgari Grave Troll as a card to ban.
Well, it slows it down a few turns, right? Like it makes it a little more manageable. But, I mean, you still have the cards that you printed in the meantime that were still really good. So you have, like, Cathartic Reunion. You have all that stuff. I don't know. I mean, I agree. I mean, Gitaxian Probe, you might as well have banned all the Phyrexian mana cards at this point. Like, what's the difference?
This one's actually good. I think
Right,
Gitaxian
I mean,
Probe...
You're setting a precedent.
It's a free spell, so that enables all kind of shenanigans from Storm to Prowess. It lets you look at your opponent's hand, which lets you play around any counterplay they may have, and on top of that, it cycles. It makes your deck more consistent. So I can totally understand the Probe getting the axe. I don't think it's going to affect Modern too much. Grave Troll, I think I agree with Seth. I don't know that it does anything, and you might take a percentage point or two off of Dredge, but I think the deck will continue. Modern, this is what I expect. Like, I can see this. This is a nice, normal, conservative ban. Nothing crazy going on. And yeah, the Phyrexian mana experiment failed and Probe needs to go. So I'm okay with the modern changes. It's okay in my books.
I think Probe does actually have a really good effect beyond the reasons Richard said. I think it does slow down some decks a bit, because we've seen the thing in the ice decks. Basically, all the decks that are looking to win with Become Immense or Temur Battle Rage. Death Shadow is one of them. The Blue-Red Prowess deck, Infect, is one of them. Probe is one of the most important cards in that deck. It flips your thing in the ice, gets counters off your thing in the ice. It fuels your graveyard to make sure you got Become Immense, Delve mana. So I think it's not gonna slow those decks down by a turn or even half of a turn, but losing Probe does slow down several of the fastest decks in the format, which is what I think most people want for Modern, is to be just a little bit less of a turn 3 format and a little bit more of a turn 4 format. And Probe itself isn't going to get it there, but it is going to get it slightly closer to that goal, I think.
So another BNR and another cycle of weeping for Jace the Mind Sculptor speculators, Bloodbraid Elf speculators, Stoneforge Mystic speculators.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of cancellation requests came in today when they saw the announcement this morning. Hey, can I get all those Stoneforge Mystics back? Or Jace the Mind Sculptors back? That would be nice.
I'm also confused why Wizards announced they were doubling up on the banning schedule now. So there's one before set release and then one after the Pro Tour. But they also said in the next sentence, like, this doesn't mean we're going to ban more things. So if you're not planning on banning more things, do you really need, like, to double the number of banned and restricted announcements?
Well, you never plan for mistakes. Right. But when you make them, you still need to clean them up, right?
You want to get out. You want to get out. Well, actually, it was also because I know a few pros, like, when they get the spoiler and it's completely released, they start brewing immediately for the Pro Tour. Like that's where they're setting their sights. I guess they would have even wanted earlier because it would feel really awful to like ban something only a few weeks, like a week after the set has come out, like because everyone's like, oh, wait and see, blah blah blah. But what they don't realize is that Pro Tour is right around the corner, and you ban something a couple weeks out, like you basically just ruined an entire strategy for a pro team. So I don't know. I guess that was in mind when they said, we're gonna kind of have multiple outs for this, because if we do make a mistake, then we have these outs, and it still gives people enough time to test for the Pro Tour. And I guess if we miss something and the pros blatantly reveal that we've messed up, i.e. Eldrazi Winter, then we have an out to the Pro Tour because we just ban it right after the Pro Tour. So I don't know.
So to wrap up this conversation, what do you guys like better? The accelerated rotation schedule, which they went back on, in which sets rotate faster, or an accelerated BNR schedule where they're able to ban and I guess unban cards at a faster pace?
Faster rotation.
Yeah, I think having your deck banned is way more frustrating and painful and likely to make people quit Magic than faster rotation. Even though faster rotation wasn't possible or wasn't popular, it's nowhere near as devastating as buying Green-Black Delirium and having your deck get banned randomly like it just happened. So
I agree with you guys. And what do you think the odds are that Sam Stoddard sends out a tweet about the state of Standard and asking for people's opinions?
The best part of that is they just published the article saying how everyone loves Standard. We ran this Twitter poll and there was a lot of good responses there.
By the way, we also know that you liked it so much that we had to ban these 3 cards, so you don't have to deal with them anymore. It's our present to you. Happy New Year.
The good news is you can still play Black-Green Delirium in Frontier. This is all a conspiracy to push Frontier, guys.
Oh, hey, you're right. Go grab those 25-cent Smuggler's Copter on TCG Player.
All right, shall we move on to some spoilers? Because we
should.
The actual
we need a pick-me-up.
big news of the week was we got the full Aether Revolt spoilers, but once again, for every piece of good news we get, something overshadowed it. But let's go on to spoilers. Let's start with Exquisite Archangel. 5 white, so 7 converted mana cost. It's an angel. It's a 5/5. Flying. If you would lose the game, instead exile Exquisite Archangel and your life total becomes equal to your starting life total.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, if you haven't seen the MTG on MTG Goldfish on the YouTube channel, that Seth and I are doing a set review. We do these for every set review. You're gonna hear a little bit of on both sides, but we love to get Richard's take. So what do you think about this card, Richard? Because Seth and I, we kind of talked about this. Like it is flavorful. It looks beautiful. It's an angel, but does this really see play anywhere? Do you think?
I imagine it will see play in a control deck if a control deck is a thing.
Hmm.
And I'm surprised they printed this because this is one of the most feel-bad cards you can ever play. It's like, I get you down to 1 life. I'm about to kill you, but I can't. You go back to 20. Like, I think that's way worse than getting my turn taken or, getting a spell counterspelled or something. It's that I'm going to win, but oops, nope, I'm not going to win, and you're just going to go back undoing my last 20 minutes worth of work trying to whittle you down. So if there's a slow control deck, I think this would go in. And, typically aggro decks are not going to have any way to deal with this. So you just slap this down and stabilize. So I think it's actually kind of reasonable. Especially given Emrakul's gone now. You can give your new takes now that there's no Emrakul or Smuggler's Copter. You're not going to die on turn 4.
Right.
You're going to make it to the late game. So, and it blocks like Archangel Avacyn and stuff. So I think this has a shot of being playable. And the effect is super annoying, and I think it's going to be crazy in EDH. I'd like to gain 39 life if possible. It doesn't save you from Infect, though, so that's not cool. But it saves you from a lot of things.
So more important question, odds that this ends up getting banned in the next
I don't think we're going to have to worry about this one.
Is it on a playmat? If it's on a playmat, then it's going to get banned.
Oh man.
Smuggler's Copter is on a playmat for GPs, by the way. So sorry, tournament organizers.
I will say that since this Emrakul banning took place, which happened after we did the set review stuff, it does, I don't know about this card in specific, I'm still not 100% sold on it, but it does free up the possibility of a card like this being good. At least there's a conversation now, because before, if you were going to 7 mana and you weren't casting Emrakul with that mana, you were just doing it wrong. There's no other way about it. But now a card like this is actually in the conversation, and if you're playing a control deck, this could actually be something that you might want.
Well, weren't you doing it wrong casting Emrakul at 7 mana? No, and it is kind of unfortunate that it's not unfortunate. They did ban it, which is nice, but it's unfortunate that they did it after we talked about everything. I don't feel any much more optimistic about this particular card, but there are a few cards that we did mention, even on previous podcasts. It's kind of like it opens up almost everything, because it's like, oh, this is so great, but like, can I still do it before they play Emrakul? And like, how can I still interact with Emrakul? There's still so many. It kind of does open things up a lot. And yeah, maybe you did bring up the point though, and on the video, Seth, what was the other angel? The one, did it have flash? I can't remember.
I
It was
don't
from a core set, right?
Resolution Archangel, I believe.
Okay. Did it have Convoke? I know it had something.
Let me look it up to make sure.
This kind of feels a little bit like that.
It's a 4/4 flyer for 7, no abilities. When it enters the battlefield, your life total becomes your starting life total.
Okay. So this, you do kind of lose this, but at least it's out, and not a lot of stuff deals with it.
It's similar, yeah. I don't know what is better, actually. Resolution Archangel does more in situations where you're not losing the game. Like, you can just be at 8 life and play it and go back to 20 and have a relatively big flyer. But the new one does have more power and toughness, and if you're actually losing the game, it saves you. You can just let it sit on the battlefield. So it'll be interesting. I think that they're both pretty reasonable for Commander, though.
All right. Best card in the set coming up. Midnight Entourage. 2 black creature. Aetherborn Rogue. 3/3. Other Aetherborn you control get +1/+1. Whenever Midnight Entourage or another Aetherborn you control dies, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. I proclaim this to be the best casual lord. Now,
Yes, I
all of
will
the
agree
angry
with you.
comments tell me the better lords than this.
This is definitely up there. And full disclosure, I only chose this card because Richard was not there. But this is Richard's favorite card, even more than I like it.
It's really, you get to draw a card, and you get to draw a card anytime someone kills one of your Aetherborn. So the worst thing about tribal decks is you play them all out and you get Wrath. And that's typically the end of the game unless you're playing Slivers. So with this, you get to draw a new hand, right? So I think this actually is one of the best lords. Lord of Atlantis was probably the best lord because it's actually competitive. But in terms of casual abilities, pumping and getting to draw cards is pretty sweet. So I actually think this is pretty good. What's holding back the Aetherborn are the lack of other Aetherborn creatures. I tried building an Aetherborn tribal deck with Gonti, with only Kaladesh, and there's like 5 or 6 Aetherborn, that was it. So maybe with Aether Revolt there's enough, and you get the new Mimic, maybe throw in some shapeshifters and stuff. Maybe you have enough for an Aetherborn tribal deck now, so I'm pretty excited about this. And this guy's not legendary, so you can clone him and stack him to get the effect. That's super awesome. Drawing multiple cards per death of a Aetherborn will be really good.
So is there a 1-drop Aetherborn?
Maybe?
Because I don't think isn't the 4th Bridge Prowler a human rogue?
So what I
No.
hear you saying, Richard, is this will probably end up getting banned? Is that what we talking about?
Yeah, it might.
We determined that Aetherborn are too powerful. That's too many people. We're making janky decks and winning with them, so banned.
To be honest, you play Gifted Aetherborn, the 2-mana, 2/3 Death Touch Lifelink, into Yahenni, into the Lord. Wait, that's actually not that bad.
Wait, is the Vampire Nighthawk thing an Aetherborn?
Yeah, it's an Aetherborn vampire. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But you don't have a 1-drop. They gave you a 1-drop. It's a human rogue. What is it? Come on.
One drop is for
No.
Fatal Push. One drop is to remove any creature they have, which will kill all of your Aetherborn.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, and now their Fumigate, there's an additional line on their Fumigate that says they lose 5 life, you gain 5 life, and draw 5 cards. So, that's not bad. You got Syndicate Trafficker in the 2 spot. So, yeah, I think your 1-drop is literally a Fatal Push.
Yeah, and Yahenni is Aetherborn Vampire, obviously. I don't know, did we talk about Yahenni last week? But Yahenni can sacrifice creatures. You know, they can be Aetherborn, you can draw cards, it can be indestructible. So maybe I'll force Seth to play this in Standard. I'll rig the poll. Show me the against the odds poll. Let me rig it. All right, let's move on to another legendary creature. So we talked about Yahenni. We talked about who's the other one? SRAM. So we got Kari Zev, Skyship Raider, the red human pirate. 1 in a red, 2 converted mana cost, 1/3. First strike menace. When Kari Zev, Skyship Raider attacks, create a legendary 2/1 red monkey creature token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking. Exile that token at the end of combat. So a pirate with a monkey token.
Legendary monkey.
This is one of my favorite flavor cards of the set. And I think it's reasonable. It's not great. It's a weird amount of power and toughness, but when you consider it does get the monkey token attacking with it, it's kind of 3 damage, 3 power and toughness when it's attacking. So, but the monkey with the goggles is just so sweet. So I'm really glad they made this card, and I think it's really cool. As far as competitive play, I'm not 100% sold. What do you think, Richard?
Seems pretty bad. It's the... I mean, flavor-wise, and it's 3/4 worth of power, except only 1/3 of menace and first striking. So that makes it awkward, because if all of that power and toughness was first strike and menace, it'd be pretty good. But as a 1/3, like, you just don't block it. And then any 1x kills the monkey token. So in terms of playability, I'm not seeing it. It might be good in limited. Like, even then, it's a little questionable. Like, a 1/3 doesn't get you anywhere. So, aside from, Pirate Tribal, but it's mono red, so it makes it kind of hard. Or, having sweet monkey synergies, like, I don't see this being that good in Standard.
But Menace
on a 1/3, because, I want to commit 2 of my creatures to block this 1/3. Well, the monkey should have Menace, and Kari Zev should have First Strike. That would be sense.
Nice. Yes. But the thing is, you know what? This actually seems a little bit better now that Smuggler's Copter's gone. I'm not even like joking. Like it seems. I mean, the 2/1 still attacks into. Well, maybe I don't even think. Will people still be even playing Thraben Inspector anymore? so maybe it's still bad. Oh man,
the monkey needs First Strike and Menace, and then this card would be good.
You're right. Yeah, it is really. I love the character, love the design, love the flavor. I just don't know if it gets there. Where's Ash Zealot? Come on.
Oh, Ash Zealot. Too good. All right, let's move on to Rishkar, Pima Renegade. So it's a green card, 2 in a green, 3 converted mana cost, 2/2, legendary creature, Elf Druid. When Rishkar enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap to add green to your mana pool.
Yeah, this has now. I loved this before, but this seems even better now. Now that you don't have to worry about dying to like Emrakul really quickly, this just seems great. I mean, you pair this up with Winding Constrictor. You pair this up with anything, actually. You can enable some really interesting stuff early on into the game that can almost just value your opponent out of the game. Like turn 4, you can play Rishkar's Expertise. You ramp into Rishkar's Expertise. You could drop a Gear Hulk. Like there's some crazy stuff you can do. You could play Ajani now. You can play the green-white Ajani. You don't have to worry about giving your opponent 13 life.
Isn't the Planeswalker deck better so you can put counters on things to make mana?
I can't tell if Seth is serious or trolling. Every time he talks about Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers.
Oh, you're right.
See, Chaz, you got the wrong of Johnny
I
in your
did.
hypothetical deck. Really, though, I think this card is pretty reasonable. I mean, even the mana ability is pretty powerful, but even just getting a 3/3 and putting a counter on something for 3 mana, that's pretty on curve and pretty good. And then the dream scenario of using that mana, because if you play it on turn 3, you put 2 counters on things. Theoretically, you can tap those 2 creatures. You'll have 4 lands. You'll have enough mana that you can play a Gearhulk on turn 4 and put the counters on an untapped creature to immediately attack with a relatively big creature thanks to Gearhulk. So I think I would be interested. I played a mono green Stompy list, Gearhulk Stompy for Budget Magic a while ago, and I think in a deck like that that's just looking to kind of go wide early and then finish the game with Gearhulk, I think this is really good. Plus you have Nissa, which puts a counter on everything, and it's kind of a build your own Cryptolith rights that has a 3/3 body coming attached with it. So I think there's potential.
Right,
Yeah, I
and
think-
it's any counter. It doesn't even need to be +1/+1 counters.
Yeah, it can be any counters. It's gonna be ridiculous in EDH, and this seems really good. It's above the. It's 3 mana for 4/4, and all your guys become mana dorks, letting you cast your Virtus Gearhulk to even get further ahead. So I think Stompy is the right word. You're gonna get some really big green creatures like smashing into things. So I actually really like this card, and it might actually be too powerful. I don't know about making your team all mana dorks is really safe, right? Because if you have like 1-drop, 2-drop, you play this, and then basically you have access to Emrakul mana the next turn. Emrakul is now banned, so now you might have access to, I don't know, Ulamog mana or something like that. So it's pretty crazy, especially given you have Nissa in the format, which makes all your creatures get +1/+1 counters, which makes all your creatures into mana dorks. So it'll be interesting. Servos are also a thing, Fabricator also a thing, so there's a lot of ways to go wide and generate a ton of mana with this card.
You're speaking my language.
Oh, there's one
Huge
card
green creatures.
which we want to talk about. Huge green creatures. Greenbelt Rampager. 1 green, it's a 3/4 creature elephant. When it enters a battlefield, pay 2 energy. If you can't, return Greenbelt Rampager to its owner's hand and you get 1 energy. So 1 mana 3/4. Is this the biggest 1-drop we've ever seen?
It's pretty big.
Dreadnought, Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Oh, Dreadnought. You're right.
Dreadnought, Figure of Destiny, Warden of the
I'm
First
just happy
Tree.
they're bringing it back. They're bringing it back old school. Green, you had rogue elephants. You had just the creatures of the jungle, like all kinds of creatures. And it's just happy to see like an old school. Maybe it's just I'm more happy than other people, but I mean it's a good card. I mean at the very worst, you get a 3/4. So you have to pay 2 energy and you get a 3/4.
Like if you're desperate,
worst
it's
case
green, 3/4, right? You can
Right.
cast it twice to gain 2 energy and then cast it a
Yes.
third time. That can be split over multiple turns. In the best case scenario, it's like the biggest tempo swing you've ever seen, because you go 1-drop, 2-drop, and then 2-drop Greenbelt Rampager. You basically dump your whole hand with big beefy green creatures. So I actually think this card is really above the curve. I don't know what they're thinking, printing a 1 mana 3/4. Not even a 3/3, a 3/4. So weird. I don't know, Chaz, as the green expert, is just not
it's
like absurdly. It's like
definitely a
Tarmogoyf,
thing.
man.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know about Tarmogoyf, but it's definitely good. And it serves even another purpose. Like it can be an engine. Like it gives you a bare minimum energy reserve, right? Like at least you're basically if you can't use the 3/4 or you don't need to use the 3/4, it's basically pay 1, get an energy, and you can do some interesting stuff with like Paradox Engine, right? Like you can. If you have something that can eat up the energy, like a Servant of the Conduit, I think it's called, right? The green one?
Yep.
Yeah, Servant of the Conduit. You can get some crazy stuff going with like just a Greenbelt Rampager and a Servant of the Conduit. And if
Yeah.
you have something that has like an ETB ability, you're golden right there.
I think the comparison for this card for me is, Sarah. What's the one that's played in
Avenger?
Death and Taxes? Avenger. Yes.
Yep.
That's what it reminds me of. It's essentially a really overpowered creature for its mana cost, except it kind of has a drawback where you can't play it on turn 1, and on turn 2 you might be able to play it. You need some work. So it's kind of a really big 1-drop, but you can't play it the first 2 turns of the game. It's kind of how it works out. The good news is it does generate you some energy. So if you care about energy synergies and you got nothing going on, it's fine to just play this on turn 1 to get an extra energy that you then use on your Bristling Hydra or Servant of the Conduit as the game goes along. So,
all right. So should we move into the combos now? So a lot of people have found many combos in Aether Revolt, and a lot of these cards seem super pushed. And there's speculation. Do you think Wizards put these combos in intentionally, or do you think they accidentally left them in? A lot of people thought the Ban and Restricted announcement today was to address some of these combos. So Seth, do you want to break down some of the combos and interactions that we have in this set? Any infinite standard combos?
Okay, so if we're focusing on standard in specific, we have a few different infinite and like semi-infinite combos. First off, Paradoxical Engine or Paradox Engine is a combo with Cryptolith Rights and a bunch of things. That card's just built for combos, so I'm sure I'm not even scratching the surface, but one of the most obvious ones for standard, you make all your creatures into mana dorks. Paradox Engine lets you untap them whenever you cast a spell, so you just tap all your creatures for mana, cast something, as long as you can keep drawing cards and generating card advantage, you can kind of just go through your whole deck like that. So that's one. We also have the new Splinter twin combo, essentially, with Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian, which lets you copy the Felidar Guardian, which lets you blink something when it enters the battlefield. So you copy that with Saheeli Rai, and then you blink the Saheeli Rai with the copy of Felidar Guardian, which gives you a Saheeli Rai, which is actually a new object as far as the game is concerned. So you can use it again. So you just make an infinite number of these 1/4s and beat down. Very similar to Splinter Twin and Deceiver Exarch. We also have a combo with Wandering Fumarole and Crackdown Construct. So Crackdown Construct gets +1/+1. It's a 4-mana 2/2, but it gets +1/+1 whenever you activate an ability that isn't an mana ability. And Wandering Fumarole lets you, for 0, switch its power and toughness. So you can just activate that 0 ability an infinite number of times, and you get an infinitely big Council Crackdown. You can even sacrifice it to Barrage Tyrant, which lets you sack a colorless creature to deal damage equal to its power to a creature or player. So you don't actually have to attack. There's the Richard special, he came up with this one. Greenbelt Rampager, Servant of the Conduit to eat up the energy from Greenbelt Rampager with Paradox Engine, lets you generate infinite enter the battlefield triggers. And then with Aetherflux Reservoir, that gains you an infinite number of life, also lets you deal 50 damage to your opponent an infinite number of times, although it usually takes 1. And then there's Metallic Mimic and Animation Module, which is essentially standard Copter sword. You get to, once you put a counter on something, you trigger your animation module, which makes a servo token. If you have your Metallic Mimic on servo, it's going to put a +1/+1 counter on that servo token, which again triggers animation module. So you make another servo for 1 mana. So basically you make 2/2 servos because they get the +1/+1 counter equal to the amount of mana you have. So every turn you can make 3, 4, 5, an increasingly big number, just like Sword of the Meek and Thopter Foundry in Modern. So that's my list. I might be missing some, but that's 5, I think, infinite combos we have in Standard right now.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's a ton.
So we went to complaining about no combo in Standard. It's all mid-range decks, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, just like a set full of combos like left and right. How many of these do you think are Standard playable? What is the scale of jankiness for these combos?
Can we queue up the soundbite of Saheeli Rai?
Oh, it's time for Chaz's glory.
Cue it up. No, I do think the Saheeli Guardian combo is good enough. I do think so. So the other stuff, like Paradox Engine, could probably be good enough too. But let me ask, like, did you feel more enthusiastic about all these combos because now you almost had like a sword to wield against Emrakul, or do you feel less excited about it now because now we're left with all these combos It's almost now we just have combos bouncing off each other, and whoever gets to the combo first wins.
This morning, when they announced they were going to have a BNR announcement today, almost every single person I saw on Twitter, pros and players and everyone, assumed that they were preemptively banning the Saheeli Rai combo because it is same mana cost and looks a lot like Splinter Twin. You lose the flash and some of the aspects of Splinter Twin that made it good, but it's very reminiscent of the Splinter Twin combo, which was good enough that they banned it in Modern. So that's why everyone assumed, but that didn't get hit by the banning at all. So that's the combo that I think is most likely to be tier 1 in Standard. I also really think that we could find a Paradox Engine combo that is very playable in tier to some level. The other combos I think are more janky. They're really cool. Could play them for like against odds or budget Magic. The one exception might be Metallic Mimic and Animation Module, but I don't think you're going to build a deck that is based on that combo, but you might be playing a Metallic Mimic deck that because you want to play that anyway to pump up whatever you're doing and just play the animation module as kind of a secondary game plan to sometimes win with the combo, but be having a proactive creature-based game plan where you're using Metallic Mimic as a lord. But I think the Splinter Twin combo with Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian is the one that really stands out as potentially one of the best things to do in the format.
Also the animation module, we talked about this on the set review. It almost felt this. I think this gained a little bit of hope. Not that it'll jump right to tier 1, but I have a little more optimism now because we talked about this. It just didn't feel like a good idea to be plugging along with a Copter sword combo essentially when they're just trying to go for Emrakul on turn 4. So as you're trying to set up this kind of really intricate, long drawn out thing, they're just going to take over your turn and just blow up everything that you were doing anyway. So that has me a little more hopeful. Obviously the Saheeli Twin combo looks way better without having to combat Emrakul.
I think my worry with Metallic Mimic is unlike Copter Sword in Modern, where your pieces are actually really resilient, especially your sword, which comes back from the graveyard. That's how the combos actually, how it actually works. Metallic Mimic is just a 2-1, so it's very easy to disrupt it with anything all the way down to a shock. And then, so if you're really investing in that being your primary game plan, it just seems risky because your combo piece is so fragile. When at least with the Saheeli combo, you're going with a 1/4, which does dodge shock. It does dodge Harness Lightning if your opponent doesn't have additional energy producers, so it's a little more resilient to an instant speed removal spell than Metallic Mimic is.
Yeah, we're referring to the modern counterparts, but these combos are significantly weaker. Splinter Twin is a flash combo. You end a turn, you put down your creature, and then untap, you play Twin. Whereas this one, you gotta play Saheeli, and then you play your 1/4, and Saheeli can be removed with a shock. As soon as you -2, you can actually kill her. So it's not as resilient, and same with Copter Sword. The sword can be in the graveyard from looting or just getting destroyed, and it makes flyers, which is relevant, so you can actually block, and it gains you life, so you can actually stabilize because you spent all this time, typically as a control deck, trying to stabilize and put this thing together. So the combos are weaker than their modern counterparts, but this is standard, so it's okay to be weaker. What I'm more concerned about, though, is if Saheeli Twin, which is, I think, the most respectable combo here, is a thing, even just a remote thing, does it get banned? Right? now that we've seen Emrakul, I didn't think Emrakul was that big of a problem, right? But what's worse than, having your turn taken from you on turn 4? Well, just losing the game on turn 4, which is Saheeli Twin. So does that generate enough field bads to warrant a ban? Are you sure you want to go deep on your Saheeli Rise? So that's what's floating in my head right now. It's, if this is a real thing, is it too good? We haven't had turn 4 combos in Standard in such a long time. Are they just going to ban it from me? So I don't know. Confidence shaken. But I don't think it's that good because, you can just shock the Saheeli. So there are ways to combat this on top of counter spells and stuff. So I think the decks will be more controlling, and they're not going to try to slam the win on turn 4. It'll be more like Splinter Twin, where they kind of drain you of your resources, grind you out, and then just slap down the combo to win, which is, I think, how the standard decks will actually play out.
Yeah, I think you're very dead on with that. It's more likely that instead of being an all-in combo deck, like we saw the early versions of Aetherworks Marvel that were just overloaded with all these crappy energy producers and were like strictly based on the combo, it's more likely that we'll find the Saheeli Twin combo in a Jeskai control list, but this is the finisher. So once you gain control of the game and are in a stable spot, then you can just win all at once instead of going through this long, slow beatdown process with your Torrential Gear Hulk getting chumped or a Wandering Fumarole or something. It gives you a guaranteed way where you're like, all right, our opponent doesn't get to draw any more cards. The game ends this turn once you gain control.
Yeah, and I actually like Crackdown Construct a lot. For the main reason of Wandering Fumarole is playable and desired in decks on its own. So Crackdown Construct is just a 1-card combo at this point. So you can, play... imagine, the blue-red spells deck or blue-red control, and their finisher is a Crackdown Construct, where they just put it down and then make it a 20/20 and hit you for 1 turn. So I actually think that combo is a bit under the radar, and Wandering Fumarole is a perfectly playable card on its own, and so that doesn't even count as a combo piece. So this is a 1-card finisher.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And Saheeli can fetch up all the copies of card in your deck.
Oh, you're so into Saheeli, Chaz. This is the worst. This is the worst. How did Chaz predict that they would just literally print the 1 card that would make Saheeli good?
I knew it.
The 1 card had to be very specific. Had to be able to blink a Planeswalker.
I did not know that, but let me tell you. Yeah, I think I'm excited about the combos. It was almost like I was more excited about them because they can combat what was going on in Standard, right? It felt like another option. And it was almost like keep Aether, the Aetherworks Marvel and the Emrakul deck, right? Like, I'm going to be doing something too. And it felt like at least another option that it could kind of spice things up, right? Now it just feels like, oh, well, those things are gone. Now can these decks fight the combo decks? Uh-oh. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Hopefully it's good enough. Everyone maybe should be packing shock in their deck because you're going to need it to stop this combo shenanigans. But I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm excited to brew more than I have been, even when I was trying to brew around cards to beat Emrakul.
So what do you guys think of the set overall? Now that we've seen all the cards, we've seen crazy cards. People are calling it the most push set in years and the most powerful set. We have all these crazy combos. What's your opinion of Aether Revolt?
You can go first, Seth.
I definitely think it looks super powerful, and I'm still super excited for it. There's just a lot of cards that seem very push, so I'm very excited for it, and I think it's going to be a great time for brewing, and maybe even more so than it was going to be because of the bannings. That's one of the definite upsides. It is slightly disjointed feeling as far as the flavor and kind of fitting together as a set, I think, in my opinion, but it does have a lot of stuff that's just very powerful standalone cards.
Yeah, I like this. I liked it before. I like it even more now that Emrakul and Smuggler's Copter and all that kind of just got wiped away. It feels a little bit more fresh. Like I can be a little bit more confident that some of these cards are actually going to have some sort of impact and not just, it's just another good card, but another good card that is just going to go to the wayside because of Emrakul. So I have a lot of optimism now.
Yeah, I think the set is very powerful, and I like playing with powerful cards. The question is, how balanced is this format? And I'm skeptical of the expertise cycle. I'm skeptical of some of these combos. They look too good on paper, but if everyone has good combos and good cards, it should balance out. So as long as each of the colors gets a good, representation, we should be good. But it just might be Emrakul again, where only black-green can take advantage of it, and black-green kind of shoots to the top along with Marvel. So I'm really hoping Wizards did this correctly, and we're not sitting here asking why people are using, Lotus Blooms or Black Lotuses on turn 4, and that this actually all somehow balances out. But I'm excited because we haven't had a powerful set in a long time. The only true disappointment, in my opinion, is Shock. People are all clamoring over Shock, which was, if you go back over the years, people are always like, oh my god, Shock is terrible. And now we're like, hooray, Shock, finally, instant speed, red spell. And soon enough, Cancel has gotten there. Now we're like, oh my god, Cancel with Upside, like such a glorious day. So that's a little weird, but the other cards are very powerful. So it'll be exciting to see what happens, and hopefully it's just not Saheeli Twin running rampant at the Pro Tour. Hopefully it's not just Archangel Avacyn or one of the old cards just dominating the format now, but we see some of these new cards.
Yeah, well said. You want to quickly get through these fish mail?
All right, let's wrap up with fish mail. So last week we had technical difficulties with the fish mail, so it was lost. But we did answer your questions. You just didn't hear them. We'll type them out to you guys. But if you have questions, send a question with the hashtag MTGFishmail on Twitter, or leave a comment in the article or YouTube comments. So first question from Magic Warrior 3. I see people complaining about the power of Aether Revolt. Do you guys think more power is fun? Why or why not?
I like powerful cards, and I think powerful formats are fun. That's me personally. There does need to be some amount of balance, which we were kind of just talking about, or Richard was with Aether Revolt. There needs to be a balance there, so it's not just that one color or one deck or one card even. In the case of Emrakul, maybe is super powerful. But I think overall that high power level formats are more fun to play than lower power level formats.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes powerful stuff to do. And in standard, sometimes you need that. Like, sometimes you need to swing the pendulum back and forth. I get fair Magic and really underpowered standard can be interesting, but sometimes if everything's strong, then it's still pretty compelling as well.
Yeah, for standard, I don't mind if it's powerful or not powerful, like in the context of playing standard matches, but I really like powerful sets because it gives the cards a chance to break into modern and legacy. If you have underpowered standard, there's like no way any card will make it. But a lot of these cards we've seen in Aether Revolt, a lot of people are thinking how they slot into modern decks. So that's the part I really enjoy about powerful decks. They actually influence the older formats. Next question from OG Magikarp is God. Seems like casual is the new target for buyouts. Why? $30 for a Master Transmuter. Who would buy at these prices?
Not a lot of people, actually. So if you look through and see that you can check this by checking completeds on eBay or even on TCG, the latest, what was actually sold. I don't think people really were buying at that new price. So yeah, is it a little bit under? Still $25, maybe even $22. That's still a lot, but you got to understand that casual encompasses all of Magic, right? So when a card like, and I'll just use the question's example of Master Transmuter, I mean, that's an old card. And Arch Enemy, right? Arch Enemy printing and Conflux, like that's still relatively low when you compare that to some of the cards printed today, like as of, Aether Revolt or Kaladesh or something like that. So it's not the fact that it's just casual. It's the fact that some of these cards are just really old and there's not a lot of them around, and they happen to just be good with some of the new stuff that is released. And when you look at Commander 2016 in specific, I mean, these are, I would have to think, the best Commander products that they've made so far. Maybe it's debatable between the first one, the very first Commander product, and this one, but these are some of the most built around commanders that we've seen in a long time. So it's obvious sometimes that some of these cards that do really well are going to increase because of that.
Yeah, I think for me, the takeaway is that Commander and casual formats are super popular. It's easy to forget that when we're so focused on competitive formats that get coverage and all that stuff, Pro Tours. But that's the most popular way to play Magic, is to play casually on your kitchen table. Commander is hugely popular. So when we have products target those formats, we're going to see those prices change, especially for, as Chaz was saying, older cards that are lower in supply. It doesn't take that much when you have who knows how many thousands of people that are buying the Atraxa Commander deck or the Brea Commander deck, and then realizing, oh, Master Transmuter would be really sweet with my artifact sub-theme. It doesn't take that many of those people to move the needle on the market and cause the price to go up, because the cards just don't have that many to begin with compared to cards from newer standard releases.
All right. Next question from Mean Pork. Most underrated card in Aether Revolt. When asked for Eldritch Moon, Seth said Splendid Reclamation, Chaz said Stitcher's Graft, and Richard said Ishkana.
What? How? I remember we said on that podcast that no one could take Ishkana, Richard. Did you? Watch
I don't know. I mean, who can fact check this? Who can fact check this?
Underrated. We all love that card.
Are you questioning the integrity of our submitted question?
No. But okay. Underrated. I still think it's Rishkar. As crazy as that sounds.
I'm going to go super deep, and all of you are going to laugh, but I'm going to say Quicksmith Spy.
Ooh, which bad Quicksmith is this? The draw card one?
Well, of course. Look at who you're talking to. It is the draw card Quicksmith. But with the Spoiling a Paradox engine, you can draw your entire deck with it. So combo.
Wait a minute. Wait. Does Paradox engine untap itself?
It does. So you just target the Paradox engine with Quicksmith Spy. Every time you cast something, you get to tap and retap. So, I mean, maybe I could go with the red one as well, because
I would go with the red one.
But you know me, I would rather draw cards and kill my opponent if I had the option. So,
okay, fair enough. Well, I mean, you could draw a ton of cards and then play a Decimator of Provinces. Okay.
That's my plan.
All right, I will go with Solemn Recruit. The 3-mana 2/2 double strike with Revolt, get a +1/+1 counter. I think people always underrate double strike cards, and basically every double strike card we've seen has seen play, from Mirren Crusader. I guess the what's not the partner mechanic? What is it when you like pair with something that enters the battlefield?
Soulbound.
Oh, Soulbond, yeah. That one didn't see much play, but I think
what was the one from Theros, Richard? That saw play.
Did it? The enchantment? Was it? It was
no,
the
it was
enchantment
a 3-mana 2/2. It was a 3-mana 2/2, and when it had heroic, it got double strike and +1/+1.
Oh, there's that one,
Right?
and isn't there also a? I can't remember any of these mechanics anymore. The one where you make it an aura or a creature. What is that mechanic? Yeah, bestow. Wasn't there a bestow double striker?
I think so.
I don't know, but I think double strikers, like, you just get 2 permanents, like, you sack 2 clue tokens and you got a 4/4 double strike. Like, good luck dealing with this. So I think this has potential. We'll see what Wesco does, and it's also
Take
a
that, Emrakul. Oh wait.
There's Smuggler's Copter, can't chump it.
Oh, it literally can't ever.
Yep. At Kyle A. Swagger. This was a common question, but we haven't answered in a long time. Seth, I follow your content. Greatly appreciate it. What are the origins/meaning of saffron olive?
All right. I've told this story a few times before, but basically the saffron part came from an old Vietnam veteran neighbor I had. The very day I met him, for some unbeknownst reason, he started calling me Saffron, and it kind of stuck, and all my friends started calling me that too. And then I was in a band called Olive Drab and the Etcetras. And the gimmick of the band, or one of them, was that everyone's last name was Olive. It was like a 60s, whatever, revival thing. But so Saffron Olive came from there. And then that was my Reddit name. And that's how I ended up meeting Richard and going to Goldfish. And so that's kind of the progression to how the name became associated with me as far as magic stuff. But crazy old Vietnam veteran neighbor combined with a band I was in equals up to Saffron Olive.
All right, that's our annual broadcasting. If you follow on a Twitch stream, it's actually in our Twitch chat bot because it's asked so commonly, but we haven't actually answered this on the podcast in quite a while. So now we know where saffron olive came from. Last question from @theguy_Doug. Would you like to see energy stay as an evergreen mechanic?
No. Definitely not.
Yeah, I do not think so either. I don't think that would be healthy or fun.
I'm going to say no just because I can't read the number of energy symbols. Like it was so
Oh, yeah.
poorly designed.
You're right,
Like
you're right. Yes.
some of the cards that take like 8 energy. It's really difficult to count the energy symbols. They could not put the number in brackets or something beside it. So for that reason, I don't think they can keep it. It's just very difficult to read and understand.
The best
Yeah.
one, and I think Tulare Community College or someone pointed this out during the spoiler. Gonti's Aether Heart, you get 2 energy when an artifact enters the battlefield, and then you have to pay like 8 or something to activate it. But they put reminder text for the 2 energy, so it has the 2 symbols and then says 2 energy counters. But then for the 8, which is almost impossible to read, there's nothing.
Yeah. I actually know that for the first time you see the energy symbol on a card, they put the energy counters in brackets. But usually that's the one where you gain 1 or 2 energy. And then the second ability where you pay like 8 to 10, they put nothing. Lightning Runner, Gonti's Aether Heart, the Whale, like I just can't count the number of energy symbols.
I think we actually had to count it on, like, literally on the slide while we were doing the set review things.
Yeah.
Like, is it 7? I think it's 7.
Usability
Wait, is it 8?
experts would like to have a word with Wizards here.
Yeah, I think it's once you start to constrain them, because they feel a little bit constrained once they're in a sentence like that. And there's so many of them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, that's all of our fish mail. So if you have
right.
questions, remember to send them to the hashtag MTGFishmail on Twitter or leave them in the comments of wherever you're listening or viewing this from.
Yeah, thanks for sending those in. We'll try to even pull some from YouTube. So if you happen to have them there, but the best way is to send them on Twitter. It's the easiest. But we'll do our best to grab them from every kind of quadrant. But gentlemen, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week. It's been crazy. I'm actually like just kind of like exhausted already.
It's time to go read angry comments on Reddit.
Yes,
I haven't.
It's time to go soak everything in and see what we can do with all this information.
Yeah, we literally just started podcasting like right after the announcement's gone out. So now we get to see all the pro tweets, all the normal people tweets, people screenshots of their shopping cart of buying like play sets of Emrakuls.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a good one. Thanks everyone for joining us. We will do this again next time. So this is going to be the Goldfish Crew signing out.